Oh, no. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stat Check episode 104. I'm going to very quickly go and remember to post in the Discord before we get too far into the episode. I hope everybody's doing well. This is episode 104 of Stat Check, all the world on one charge, because I had to come up with a name really quickly. I had a very disrupted evening tonight. Anthony's going to have a disrupted evening in times to come, and Nathan and Jeremy are both unavailable to join us this week, so we have a reduced cast show. It's probably going to be a reduced time show as well. Unfortunately, Anthony does have to go after about an hour. So we'll do our best to get through the stuff that is interesting. I will probably end up wrapping up the questions solo, and then we will go from there. I hope everybody's doing well on this fine Tuesday evening, as I very quickly remember to go and post in Discord. I literally just said I was going to do and then stopped doing.
Yeah.
Anthony, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, no biggie. Just adjusting my camera because my monitor that the camera sits on is under constant assault from pickles. But yeah, having a decent day, doing work stuff, doing 40k stuff, getting kind of ready for champs. Not that there's exactly a lot of prep required from a man who plays one army, but
You've played more than one army at least a couple times this year.
I play more than one army a lot. I just don't get to when we get to team events because it's like, oh, all these other people can play all these other armies, but you're really good at this one thing, and none of us play that. So you play that, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll do it again.
Hey, look, it's the capstone to a full year of World Years, right? It's September to
That's
September,
true.
and then you can move on after Champs Cup if you want. Nobody's making you move.
Nope, no one's making me, but they sure are making me stay. That seems to be the theme. Yeah, no, I get my break to play Deceptors in October.
Yes, when is that one?
October 27th. BCP says it is on the hold. October 26th and 27th. Yep.
I think that's the weekend I'm going to see Brian in London. We're going to a Lego show instead of a tournament. So powerful.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have very different weekends. I also am gonna be basically going to a Lego show. I'm gonna push my nonsense models around. I don't even like. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play like a worse list than I think is good, even for Deceptors because of model availability. It's gonna be a mess. So
like, surely you of all people can source 30 accursed cultists.
I don't have any. I own 0. So maybe I just won't play a curse cultist. I'll just play.
I don't have any either, and I keep being like, I should really pick up a bunch of them. They're so good.
Yeah, good. Maybe they'll be bad when CSM get a fuck. They already got there.
Maybe they'll get hit in the balance weight. No shit. CSM are terrible on the numbers right now. They're not getting hit at all.
I don't know what to do, dude.
Actually, to be fair, given what happened to CSM last day sheet, when they weren't that good and got hit anyway.
Oh my god, that was so crazy.
Could you imagine if they hadn't gotten nerfed, how busted that list would be right now?
I mean, they would have slightly more expensive warp talents. Like, I don't know. This doesn't even run warp talents.
Oh, but it would be like all the Legionnaires and stuff, right? It would just gain like 80 points. I know, right?
Yeah.
Wild. I think they should buff that back in and let me play it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it'd be a good time. It's certainly been interesting. As for myself, I've been having a quieter couple of weeks. We're doing our leadership stuff for Team Scotland right now, so that's all been very interesting. Playing some practice games, putting GSC on the table, getting a few reps in with them, which has been a good time. Currently taking them to a I don't think it's technically a super major. It's like a 84 player 7-rounder this weekend with a nice big cash prize. So going down to England for that this weekend.
Gross.
Playing Outlander Claw, I know, right? Well, if you think about it this way, Anthony, I'm going down to take their money.
That's better. That's fair. A little reverse card from the Scotsman to the English.
Exactly. So I'm going to slide down. Last time I went down, I brought a Leviathan box home with me. Hopefully this time it'll be a little bit better.
What's the prize?
It's 500 quid for £500, so like $600 and something for first place.
Nice.
Yeah, can't complain. It's 6 rounds and then a top cut round for undefeated for anybody who's worried about playing 7 games. I'm sure that will be fine with my Horde army. Yeah. I'll just do an Olivier. So yeah, that's been good fun. I'm playing the Eric Lathyrus style Outlander Claw list, which has been really, really enjoyable in practice. It's so fun. The look on your opponent's face every time you have to tell them that one of the tanks is OC6, and they're just like, "It's OC what?" You're like, "Yeah, it's 6, dude. You know, like Magnus."
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, this dude, this one little dune buggy, OC6, right?
Seems fine.
Yeah, people have been enjoying that one, and I use enjoying in very big air quotes there. But yeah, it's been good fun dealing. Effectively, if people remember back the story I told about Alpine Cup, where I had to kill like 6 deaths route and a character with like the shit in my pockets. It's playing an entire army of just that. It's great. Uh, I'm really
It
selling it down to different Champs Cup right now.
Yeah, you're doing a terrible job. Every conversation we have about this army makes me feel worse about taking it.
People, no one's ever actually told me no in that chat, so I'm just kind of rolling with it at
I'm
this
I'm
point.
waiting. You get 1 day of results from this event to impress me enough that I'm not just like you playing demons, bitch.
If we're taking, I'm not taking demons. I'll play something entirely different. I'm not bringing set. I'm not flying across the
You,
Atlantic with 7 greater
you said
demons.
you wanted to play something grindy.
I do, but 7 greater demons is not grindy.
I disagree. I feel like you'll play 5 turn games most games if you take 7 greater demons.
That doesn't sound right. I feel like you're gonna get tabled a lot quicker than turn 5 a lot.
Look, we think demons are dog shit, but they keep winning stuff. So,
Yeah, obviously I'll do your favor. I'll play Drakari. That's the real.
dude, if you want, be my guest. You won't do it though. You
No,
would hate
no, not at
yourself
all.
much too much for that. So
It'd be really good content. Maybe I can get my Elder Army from Danford. I'll take them instead of Liam.
yeah,
That would be the worst possible timeline, right?
I refuse to let anybody play Eldar on the team. That's my
I think
one.
that's a good choice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
my
you
one
almost
no
suggested
no.
we put another Eldar player onto the team, and I was very upset for a brief moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, your options are what? If you don't take GSC, it's like GK. You could play guard. So you playing Bulgrin would be funny. Just
I don't like. I just don't like the idea of that. Like that's too much gorilla in one stance.
man with shield hold objective. Put tank behind man with shield.
Um, like what
It's
would I
pretty
play?
narrow, dude. Our team ate up a lot of it.
I'd probably bring like Tower Admech, something like in that range. But
I could not fathom you playing Tau. I would be very confused.
I really like our rec cadre list from WTC still. I think it did a really good job of asking some specific questions. I really enjoyed playing with it. So yeah,
That's fair.
I could see a world where that was a thing. But I think it's going to be better for everybody if I just have a really good day one at Sheffield.
I think the optimal here is that you have to play AdMech. I would love to watch you move 60 Traxi quickly because you don't play Warhammer slowly, and that army is anathema to that. So
I have played daisy chaining Gene Stealers, 100 of them. It's been fine. Taraxi are worse, but not that much worse.
Traxi are worse.
They are worse than yes, daisy chaining Gene Stealers. Trying to reach in like there's my Twitter header. I think is still a picture of me putting 60 original Gene Stealers inside one WTC ruin. Just like every single one of them crammed like all spun and packed in, and I still finished that game very quickly. It's fine. You just
So what you're
put the
saying
pace on.
is AdMech. We're doing AdMech.
Death Guard are on the table.
If GSC dies, okay.
Well, no, I just take demons away from Pumbaa. It'd be so funny.
Oh, that's so rude. Leave him alone.
No, I think Pumbaa should have a worse time at this tournament.
No, let
That's
Pumbaa have his toys. He's already mad he didn't get first at WTC. Leave him alone.
Custodies would be fun as well. I think there's a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
you could
yeah,
totally do that.
I could
Yeah.
totally do it. I could push Wardens forward. That's not.
Oh
Funny,
yeah, you can.
right? Yeah, so I think whatever happens, there's a range there. I'm hoping it gets to be GSC. I have got a day to prove it. I've only actually lost one game with them, which was a 12-8 into Wolf Jail on Super L's, where it was just like, there's 3 lanes and there's a Thunderwolf squad in each of them. Where are you going?
I'm just saying, if you lose any games day one at this event,
Josh Roberts is going.
I don't care. I
Oh,
didn't any games day one.
Okay. 3 draws coming up, babe.
Any draws count as losses in the scenarios. If you end day one without 3 wins, no GSC at Champs Cup. That's your floor.
That's probably fair. We'll see how it goes. With that said, we're going to talk a little bit about what the structure of the episode is going to be. Obviously, we are running a bit of a shorter one, as we said, because Anthony does have a deadline. There is going to be no stats this week. Jeremy was at a tournament. Cliff is on holiday in Mexico, so we are unfortunately unable to have the stats processed in time for this episode. So we will have a bonus double stats episode next week. where I'll be talking about. I'm going to literally bring the money that I win, hold it in cash in front of me if I win that tournament as well.
You can hold your GSC in the other hand.
Yeah, exactly. The GSE costs more than the prize.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. So yeah, that's next week's show. So yeah, this week we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the stuff that's been going on in mostly new releases. So we've got the Imperial Agents Codex and the Blood Angels Codex that are probably worth having a bit of a discussion about. Mostly Blood Angels because Anthony and I are both here, and we both quite like that army. So we will do a little bit of chat on that, and then we are going to roll into questions, and that will probably be about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything that we need to plug extra. I will plug one thing. We've started doing an additional bit of content that people can see on the YouTube channel now, which is youtube.com/statcheck. It's basically I've started doing some reports from the tournaments I've gone to. The first one is up for the Warmaster GT. It was a event with Dark Angels. We are trying out a new and experimental format with that, which is basically me doing a solo show, covering like list design, philosophy, why I took the army, kind of like broad level overview of the theory behind matchups, like what I was going for, whether it worked or not, and then kind of rounding it with closing thoughts on the faction, what you should look at if you're going to be looking at playing it going forward, and if you should or not. And the goal is to be doing one of those for all of the events I go to. I think I played something like 26 tournaments last year, so hopefully if that trends continue, I'll be able to put up a bunch of extra content over that. So if that's something that interests you, go and check out the YouTube channel. It's been getting very good reviews from a bunch of people, which I've really enjoyed, because it feeds my ego and it is a desperate and ravenous beast. So please continue to say nice things about me, and I will continue to make content. That appears to be the say nice things about in his button. It makes me do more things.
That's true. I can confirm.
It's a very, very easy way to make me do the thing you want to do, is to be nice about me online in any way, shape, or form. And I'll be like, ooh, I'll do more things for that person.
Yeah, I'm gonna be super nice by getting you off these GSC.
Like, that's too nice. I can't handle that much niceness.
Yeah, your score number is gonna be so big. Look at how big it can be if you just don't play this shit rat army. Look at it.
Yeah, but if it's not going to be better if I play 7 Greater Demons, Anthony. That's the problem that we're having here.
Well, we won't do that. It's fine. We just won't.
Well, those are the only two things I'm willing to play right now. That's the problem.
What? We just had a whole conversation about other stuff.
Yeah, no, that was in the past. This is in the now. This is me promoting. Like, you got to think about it, Anthony. Okay, think about it from the perspective of me making the next episode of that show. If it's GSC or 7 Greater Demons, big numbers. If it's I did Custodes again, like 7 people are gonna watch it.
You never do Custodes, and then I would get to call you a Custodes player. I could yell about Custodes on air. People love when that happens. Like, people donate stuff to us just to make me complain about Custodes frequently.
Yeah, I might have to start. That's definitely a thing. I can always get into that, auctioning off what the next army I play is as well to go with Anthony. If I'm doing, if you want a recap content on it, yeah, there we go. That's the new 40K model for getting it, is auctioning off the army for the next tournament.
No, you just put a bar up on the screen that's like 2 things, and it's like whatever one wins the race is what you play
exactly.
next. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so brutal.
GSC 7 graders, just
hell yeah! If I start doing Twitch live content, maybe that's the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna start
I'll write your
streaming
army on
Elden
my
Ring.
forehead as well. 1,000 subs. Right. Let's move on to brighter and better things. What do you think of the Imperial Agents Codex?
It's cool. Like, I actually I think it's pretty cool. I think that they did a good job making a codex have one set of points if you're playing the codex, and a different set of points if you are allies. I think that's a huge precedent, and I hope they continue to do that going forwards. So personally, I have the wildly unpopular opinion in 40K that, like, the Chaos factions, as an example, should just be done more like the Sigmar books, because that shit is dope, that you get to play a whole army of Khorne, and you get, like, the demons and the mortals, and they work together, and there's buffs that, like, inspire some synergy. That shit is tight. But since we haven't gotten any, like, of the individual god books this edition, we don't know how they're going to do that. So one can hope that it'll be the cool way, not the lame way, but we'll see. But yeah, the Imperial Agents book is pretty cool. I have no concept of what it looks like when it plays on the table, so until I have one of those, I can't tell you. But the changes to a bunch of the stuff made it way more thematic. It's cool that the Eversor actually slams you if he gets his hands on you.
Dude, that dude is so scared. She's
Yeah,
scared now.
stab the shit out of you.
That guy is terrifying.
Yeah, good. He shouldn't be just like an action monkey. That shit was stupid.
Yeah, it's like 9 attacks, sustained hits, 3 precision when he goes in, at damage at like 522. He's just like, he's gonna kill he's gonna one round your character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lamarty's watch out. And then the new Colexis is kind of interesting with the 3-inch deep strike. The Calidus having the reactive move is very frustrating, I imagine, to play against. I am baffled by the fact that the Calidus is the same points in the book and external, but
That seems
that
like a
seems
mistake,
a choice. It's like they
but
swapped it in the Vindicator's points. Why is a Vindicator 150 out of Codex?
well, it ignores
Um,
loan op, you see, and that shit is scary.
sure.
My book doesn't have any loan op. Someone else it's scary for.
As a loan up abusing GSE player right now, my Galarmorphs.
See, I'm sure it's terrifying, dude. You get vindicated.
Yeah, I'll just stand behind a wall. I'm sure it'll be very difficult.
That is less
But
good.
yeah, the Callous Assassin getting a buff was not on my bingo card for this edition so far. Getting the buff that it got already with the Reign of Deception. I say buff, the slight side grade upgrade question
That's
mark
been an upgrade. That shit is stupid.
broadly, but I think broadly it's an upgrade, but I think if it was compared to the original version that was Vect anything, I think it's worse.
I don't think so. That shit's stupid. I'm a melee man, so that Vector makes me sad.
That is fair, but I think it's very, very variable in that sense, right?
Yeah.
But the ability to go just back into reserve, like by just rolling a 4 up as well, while from being in combat, if you get tagged up, like not that I see a Callus get tagged often, and the gaining the 3-inch restriction for her go back into reserve is definitely meaningful in some senses. Like you
Yeah.
can like charge near her now and keep her in reserve without necessarily having to charge her, for example. But there is definitely things that you're just like Rhino charge Calidus stay, and now she's just like a 4 up of getting away from you. But she's definitely going to be able to get out of the combat and then go and charge something else next turn. So it becomes quite dangerous to tag her in that sense as well, which I don't love. I feel like that model is very undercosted and will continue to be in basically every Imperial list that can justify it for the foreseeable future.
No. Yeah, she's going to be around quite a bit.
And I imagine we will probably see a decent amount of Eversor as well.
I would be shocked if we didn't. Same thing. He's real good.
Yeah. The collection with the 3-inch deep strike, I think, is actually the one that like the most speaks to like my goblin scoring brain, where I'm like Calidus plus Calidus plus Calexis. I'll score all the points and nothing will ever stop me. And I'm like, yeah, but I could just kill something with the Eversor, and that does
There it
something
is.
better. Like it's kind of one of those suffering for comparison. Like the Collectus looks really good. It's also probably the third or fourth best assassin, and it's difficult to justify that in a world where you can only bring 2 of them in
I mean,
the pure book.
if you're playing Blood Angels, the Colexis's anti-psyker stuff is helpful because you're bad into T-sums and you need extra scoring, not extra murder.
For
So
now, we don't know why that will play out with a new book.
I'm somewhat confident. I don't think Blood Angels reads to me like a codex that needs help killing things generally.
That is fair. Yeah, maybe you don't need an Eversor when you have Mephiston.
Yeah, that guy fucks.
But alternatively, both of them.
But then you would just
charging
take Calidus Calexis, right? You would never take Calidus Calexis fucking Eversor in Blood Angels where you're already gonna be point tight.
Calidus, Eversor, Mephiston, Sanguinor, terrified of
Stop.
the Vindicare.
This,
You're the army the Vindicare is designed to kill.
oh God.
Just maximum.
The
You can use your
Vindicare could hit wound and go through Mephiston's save and still just not even be close to killing him.
Yep, that's fair too. But you got to remember as well, Sanguinor doesn't care about you charging Blood Angels units. You can protect your Calidus, your Eversor assassin with the Sanguinor.
God, fuck. This is terrible. I hate this conversation. Let's talk about something else. This is the worst.
Okay. I think the Agents book looks really interesting. The existence of the reactive move and forward move audible save stratagem is wild to me. That stratagem just looks like it creates so much gameplay dynamics in very frustrating ways. Which specifically it's reactively to when you get shot, you gain a forward move audible save, and then you can move 6 inches as if you had fly afterwards. So it's just
That feels like a mistake. This feels like a
yeah, I
bad
know, right?
idea.
You're gonna shoot some Granite Terminators, and they're gonna walk onto the objective with 15 OC, or you're gonna shoot that 10-man Deathwatch veteran squad, and it's gonna
Fuck
re-embark in the
off.
Rhino.
Yeah. I don't like anything about this. This sucks.
Yeah, it's an interesting stratagem to be
Reactive
honest.
moves, dude. Why? Every time they make one, it's like, and they're
It's
like,
like
oh,
it's
dude,
Signal
that's
of
the good shit.
Exigence. but it's single elections, but Mist of Deimos.
No.
And then you've got the Subductor squad, which does look very juicy.
Is that the forward deploy, but 80 points or whatever?
I think is that Breachers. Subductors are the ones that have Storm Shields and are 85 points for 11 models with a 4 vulnerable save. On
Got
everybody
it.
except the dog. The
Well, you
dog
kill
doesn't
him
have a
last.
I mean, you have to, right? Otherwise, you go straight to jail.
Yeah,
Like,
not even
just
jail. You go to
directly,
hell.
right?
You go directly to hell.
Yeah, the subductors have infiltrate. No, subductors don't have infiltrate. Navy breaches are the ones that have infiltrate,
Ah,
and they're just like again, movement 6, OC2. No, they don't have infiltrate either. Maybe they get it from the rogue traders. That seems reasonable.
I mean, if that's true, you
Um,
could just put it on the subductors and make the cops infiltrate.
maybe
Oh,
they can only join
obviously,
battle line.
you're a bad person if you play this army. You're playing the cops in a setting where you
That
could be
is true
anyone.
as well.
You
Ugh.
choose to be the cops? What the fuck?
Yeah, that is true. I don't think you should be allowed to play Imperial Agents. Like, that just seems like it's just a very, like, that's not very, like, left wing coded, right? If you're playing like, we
The
can't be doing that
cops?
on this show.
On purpose?
Yeah,
Much better to
dangerous.
play the future fascist super soldiers.
But at least you're not cops.
That's true. I don't know. Space Wolves are like the cops of the Space Marines.
Yeah, and I'm sure if we continue on this, line, we will definitely not drop any viewers.
It's fine.
Don't worry about it. We didn't need them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have like the Watchmaster, who is still very reasonable data sheet, gives his advanced charge to the Deathwatch Veteran Squad. You can run Grey Knight Terminator squads, only 5-mans, which I think is a remarkably nuanced decision to not allow you to take 10-man squads of Grey Knight Terminators and Imperial Agents. I was like, wow, they actually were like, you can't just play 3 squads of 10 Grey Knight Terminators and Imperial Agents. Holy crap, they thought about it.
I am always genuinely surprised when I see them like cover ground in advance. It's like nice, they got it. Sick.
You can only play 1 squad of those, or 2 squads of those, or 3 squads of those.
Yeah.
And the Sisters Emulator isn't as batshit crazy as the regular one because it doesn't have Miracle Dice. So it's actually just like a really good data sheet, not the most broken data sheet in the game, which is nice.
I guess.
It's still good, right?
Yeah.
But I can definitely see where you're just like, nah, I just don't need that in Agents, right?
No.
Yeah, it's a cool looking book. I think not having an army rule does put a bit of a ceiling on it, right? Like you get the Imperial Agents pick an objective thing.
I
but
think
not
this
having,
is like I think this is like the ideal of what books like this should be. Like no army rule keeps them in check from like a power level perspective. They shouldn't be one of the best armies in the game. It's a little obnoxious how like widespread they are as they can be as allies, and for that reason I'm happy that they did the right thing and made them separate point costs depending on if they're allies or if they're not, so that can get tuned out of being a problem. I think up front it's going to be a bit of an issue.
Yeah,
but
even if they don't nail it on initial, at least the consideration is there that this could change.
Yeah, they can fix it.
Like it's pretty easy to find the fixes here if there is problematic stuff in here.
I agree.
Which I think is good. And yeah, Imperial Weirdos being an army you can play and probably win games with. But probably not likely to, I wouldn't want to be the guy playing against Thousand Suns right now with
no. Well, that's just always true for me. But yes.
Sure. Or Blood Angels, right? Like just
that also seems challenging.
What's your answer for Deathwing Knights in this army? We're asking all the fun questions. I actually have no idea what any of the units damage output looks like. All I did was read defensive stratagems and go, oh, this seems like a lot of stuff. And 2 squads of Subductors for 170 points seems pretty good in a lot of Imperial armies as 22 4 vulnerable save objective holding idiots.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe some amount of the buffs, if applied to the right units, being Deathwatch veterans, they're pretty good. You can do some damage with that. Is it gonna win a lot of games by aggressively tabling its opponent? Probably not. I don't think that's what this is trying to do. But that's
I think the easiest way to explain that from my perspective is Lenin's excited about playing this. This is not a damage army.
That depends on the fucking army, dude. Sometimes Lenin's army kills you with the quickness. He and I have this like running joke that like when you go to approach an army piloted by Lenin that has Calgar in it, when you go to like run up on Calgar's squad, Many Men by 50 Cent starts playing, and like you should know that this is a bad idea what you're currently trying.
I'll never forget the stupidest game I ever played against the Calgar squad, where I jumped out 2 Crusaders two Crusader units from a Rhino and Ironstorm and wiped the entire unit, including Calgar, with the 6 melted shots and the Thunderhammer in combat.
That is
It's just
very
like,
unlikely.
what if you just died? It's so
Yeah.
funny. Like the
Oops.
Inferno pistols each killed an aggressor. He failed both forward and vulnerable saves on the Victrix Guard. I had already committed to the combat. The Thunderhammers killed Calgar. It's like,
Oh,
wow,
that's why. He did it wrong. You're supposed to leave one Victrix alive with Calgar
yeah,
like you do with
he did
Celestia.
it wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. I think maybe the one Victrix lived, like the one that was the last one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that squad it exploded. It was very funny. But I'm always like,
Oops.
yeah, good times. I love killing that unit.
Yeah.
Right. Shall we move on to the meat and potatoes?
That sounds real.
What do you think of the Blood Angels Codex?
I think they did a stellar job. And I think I'm going to make a lot of people really upset when they're playing Liberator or whatever, and I'm playing an Angelic Host list because it's way better in the mirror.
It definitely does. Yeah, having Sanguinor and the ability to make your opponent have to hit you and all that stuff, and yeah, that does seem obnoxious as fuck.
Inceptors.
Yeah, I still
They're pretty good
I
against
have
Marines.
I have a strong like whiplash reaction to that datasheet specifically from Worlds. Just be like, no, not the Inceptors. How dare
Yeah.
you make me remember that unit again?
Yeah.
Weirdly, I don't have that to anything else that was in that list because it was like Lamarties and Death Company, and I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're fine.
those guys are my favorite.
Those
But
are my
Inceptors
boys.
specifically are like the number of times that unit let me down at Worlds. I was just like, never again.
Yeah. I'm gonna fuck around with it a little bit locally just because we have like a bunch of like other people that'll pick up BA when they come out. But I will probably almost always be playing Liberator most of the time. Like
It does seem better, right?
the no guns Blood Angels getting advance in charge is like back home we go. But yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think in a very like generalized sense, my general kind of opinions on it. Liberator is very clearly a good detachment. The Blood Angels book looks pretty good. It
Yep.
definitely doesn't look as good as current Blood Angels in like a general sense, and I think that's probably a good thing for both like Blood Angels players and the competitive and the future viability of it in
Oh,
like 6 months time.
see, I think Liberators is like much better than current Blood Angels.
I think
But
Liberators is a better detachment than Sons of Sanguinius, but I think that
I
the
think
data sheet nerfs hurt enough.
I think totality of changes, Liberators is just like flat better than current Sons of Sanguinius. But you're still really bad into Dark Angels and T-Sons, and that makes it a pretty bad singles army. So
That's fair. Talk me through why. Why is that? Why do you think it's better? Because so in sort of a general sense, the things we've lost, no fight on death in detachment, which is a meaningful change.
yep,
Losing out on all of the infernal pistol damage output is not nothing. Um, depends on,
I
but
wasn't getting a
losing
lot of
out.
Inferno pistol shots off against good opponents, but I get what you're saying.
Then you have the general, like, like losing 5 power fists, gaining 5 chain swords in those units. I actually have not read the profile on eviscerators to know if they're different enough to
They're
power
real
pistols.
good. They're fine. They just hit
Are
on
they like
fours, but
exactly the
they
same as the power fist, or
basically they hit on fours, but the unit rerolls.
so a little worse? Annoying if you're in a -1 to hit aura or something like that, but
Yeah,
yeah, not the end of the world. And then you have the 6-inch consolidation is also gone. That's replaced with advance and charge stratagem. You have the 5 field abilities mortal wounds one, which is kind of there,
super
but
good
good
against
in some
on
situations.
Sangard.
Yep. And then you've gained the datasheets change for Sanguinary Guard. You've got the upgraded Asterath and the upgraded Mephiston being kind of the big ones. And then
Yep.
much better enhancements is the last kind of part
Yeah,
of that.
the captain in the Assault In squad is broken. Just fucked up good. That unit was already great. Now it is like, what are we doing? There is
Yeah,
no
specifically
way
that's
that enhancement doesn't
the
go up.
sustained hits 3 enhancement, yeah.
Yeah, holy dude. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, just rolling that guy alone may be enough to get me to play Blood Angels for Cali Cup instead of Penhost, which means I'll have to find a different event to play Penhost at locally, but that's fine. Yeah, like, holy dude, that shit is nuts. I also think that the changes to Death Company, I have to assume is going to come alongside them becoming cheaper, which makes it a lot more, like, reasonable to
Yeah,
stomach.
they're 115 as printed now, which definitely still feels on the expensive side.
I think that's
but
fine. Like
it's not.
I'd pay 230 for a unit of those.
I think I would as well.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see them
And
like being a little more or a little less, and
dude,
probably being like, yeah.
if they go down, fucking say la vie, that's also fine. But I think like my rough, I actually like, I wrote a list the other day just using like some vague ideas, and it was like essentially it was like Asterath, the captain on foot with sustain 3, Dante, Mephiston, Lamartes, an assaultant squad, an impulsor, 3 JPI units, 2 10-mans, a jump death company, a Calidus, infiltrators, and 6 Zenguard. That is a ton of units. 4 of them kill God. So it should be fine. Should be plenty. It's not oath reliant, even the slightest, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things about Blood Angels in general. I think that I'll always basically run 2 Death Company units just for the ability to be like, here's a go turn. Also, it's not relying on oaths for it to happen. I think that's
So you're basically kind of
correct.
the current list, but the Vanguard Veteran Brick or whatever you've had instead of that becomes the Sanguinary Guard unit, and then
Yep,
you have Mephiston instead of like 2 scouts.
the Sanguinor, basically.
Oh, Mephiston instead of the Sanguinor, yeah. Do you
Yeah.
still have scouts in there?
Nope, no scouts. I mean, you could turn a JPI squad into scouts. Frankly, you might be able to turn a JPI squad into 2 scouts if this comes down enough.
Yeah,
I
or
wrote
the
this again
for
vaguely.
me, fuck infiltrators.
I'm definitely never cutting the infiltrators,
Fucking
but
infiltrators.
the like that list is I've been dying for something to turn the Van Vets into meaningfully, and being able to turn them into Dante, who now gives +1 to advance in a detachment that's picked up advance and charge, to a unit of Sanguinary Guard that are also better is like fucking money. That is exactly the kind of change I was looking for in Blood Angels. Again, I don't know that this is worth like sacking the Marine slot in teams or like, you know, necessarily the best army in the game in singles. This list has basically no shooting, and for people that aren't me, that is often very uncomfortable.
It is
But
like it is basically no shooting in a way that like current Blood Angels is also not, right? Like I
yeah,
know you're
it's
saying like
this.
you don't get the Inferno Pistols a lot, but the
Yeah,
Inferno Pistols can be quite impactful in a lot of
this
matches.
is no shooting. This is playing World Eaters with jump packs. This is perfect for me. You mean I can't get move blocked anymore? This is tight. You retain your exalted aura because you have Mephiston. Like this army is very like a world, like a a Blood Angel list written by me for me. I would not be the Blood Angel list I would recommend others to play. But yeah, I think this is really really strong. It gives you like a really well balanced package. Again, entirely possible that like point changes invalidate this or whatever.
I'm not gonna say
But
that I love the idea. Like the Sanguinary Guard unit is so expensive at 430 for them and Dante based on like it seems like a lot to me,
I don't
but
need it. Dude, it hits so hard. I actually like that it's smaller too, because it's like a smaller footprint, which is super like valuable a lot of the time.
I do question if those models will fit behind WTC ruins comfortably, but
They should be fine. Like again, it's just 7 dudes, right? Like
yeah. I can see maybe them getting periscoped a little more often than the
maybe.
current models, but
But yeah, it is
you're
I'm real
definitely not running that
excited.
banner. I know that much.
What'd you say?
You're not running the banner.
No, fuck no. OC is for somebody else. OC is dead models have no OC. Who are you trying out OC? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
exactly. Dante's gonna battle shock the anything that lives anyway, right?
Yeah, whatever. Fuck those nerds. Yeah, I forgot he even does that. So half the time your opponent doesn't even get defensive strats against this unit. God, that unit's good. Yeah. Anyway, that unit very powerful. Looking forward to running it.
Yeah.
Um,
You
and I
mentioned
think that
liking the idea. Sorry, finish your
yeah, just in general, like it's you're gonna do less like relying on fighting on death. Granted, Astaroth squad still does it. Lamarte squad is still -1 to damage and now has 5 functionally fully ablative shitters in it. Um, that shit's real good, man. Like, it still does a ton of damage. Astaroth squad having dev wounds is like hot a lot of the time. That is a lot of extra
everyone's just a
damage that pushes
good
to.
rule.
Yeah, like
I've liked the Astrat squad in current Blood Angels a decent amount, just as like when Grey Knights were like really popular, it gave you just like an outlet for an Auric attempting Land Raider in your face when that was supposed to prop your build.
yep,
I know it's not ended up being like the go-to version. The Chaplain's been a bit more popular, but I did
yep.
like Astrath in current,
You can also
and he's
just
so much better now.
you can also just use the only the captain to kill a land raider now if you need that problem
I think it
solved.
needs to be on an objective for that, but yeah.
Yeah, sure, but okay.
Yeah, if it's not an objective, why do you care about it? It's 10th edition, dude. That's not
Yeah,
secret missioning.
just blast that nerd into the sun. Holy shit, that rule is good. Yeah, and then on top of that, that Impulsor now holds a Mephiston as well. Like, just so much value in so many ways that Blood Angels were already good. And I was starting to feel like the current list was like losing a bunch of its steam and like a bunch of weaknesses in certain areas. And the combination of like the new detachment, the increased threat ranges, the unit changes, all smooth out a lot of those like problems. You're still gonna get just eviscerated by a good Thousand Sons or Dark Angel player, but you
I
know,
think there is an
so the
angle
world
there where
turns.
advance and charge maybe just helps you connect a thing that you wouldn't otherwise because of the timing on it. It's like you use it after you've rolled the advance.
Yeah,
Like you can just be like, all right, I'm just gonna roll like 6 units, and like if any of them hit a 6, I'm just going with it, right?
yeah.
And you
I'm
have a
just gonna
chance of
go.
just like maybe overcorrecting and overconnecting to something, like blowing up a unit that you shouldn't have thought, or getting like reaching
And
Magnus with a risky charge that maybe just gives you outs you didn't have in the current builds.
yeah, and your sanguinary brick doesn't just explode against them now. Like again, you have outs here. It's not like but like if you're playing on the same skill level, it's probably gonna be a bit rough. It just means that sometimes you can win the game punching down now, which is cool. Better than nothing. We'll take it.
Yeah, very fair. You mentioned having an idea of it liking some of the Angel Strike Force builds. What
Yeah,
were
I
your
mean
thoughts
that's
there?
just like put 15 Inceptors in an army and then fill out the rest with scoring trash and sanguinary guard, and then make your sanguinary guard really upset when someone kills your scoring trash and murder them. That again, you'll notice a theme in basically any marine list I write. I'm trying to pull reliance on oaths off of it. So in that scenario, because you have all the Inceptors, you want oaths to be able to be used by the Inceptors. So you put out JPIs, your opponent kills JPIs in order to kill the thing that killed them. You spend a CP, your sanguinary guard hate fuck them, and then your Inceptors can use oaths that turn instead.
Yeah, very true. And as Melody says, Gabriel Seth died so everyone else could get advanced in charge.
Yeah, look, that makes me depressed if I think about it too much, so I'm just not gonna.
I genuinely, when I was reading through it, was like blown away by the fact that they give all their detachments advance in charge.
Oh yeah, did
It
not
was
see that
like
coming.
I was like, maybe the bad detachment will have it and we'll play that one anyway. And then it was just like, no, you just Sons of Sanguinius? What if advance in charge? And I'm
I
like,
am
okay.
I am real curious. Post points, depending on how cheap, like Foot Death Company, both with an assault rifle and with a punch thing, are to see what Olivier does with that detachment. Because I feel like if they're real cheap and you can fit a whole lot of Marines in not a whole lot of points, then the French madman, starts rubbing his hands together.
I don't think in this situation it's not just going to be the French guys.
Yeah, I mean,
You're gonna
I
have
don't
these
know.
little. You're just gonna have like 3 solo chaplains walking about like
Yeah,
OC
you're
bubbles.
not battle shocked. You're not battle shocked. You have OC.
You're like you like pretend you forgot to use it at the beginning of your opponent's command phase to just like, oh, you thought I forgot, did you? No.
Yeah. Bow.
Ah,
Um,
so much frustration.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
looking
I
forward
think
to it. I'm very excited for Blood Angels in a way I've not been excited for something in quite a while. I'm gonna play like, probably more pen host than is frankly like reasonable or advisable. Because I still think that army is really good. I think most people are just not very good at Warhammer. So I think that there is a lot of ways to make that shit work. But I am really, really excited for Blood Angels.
yeah, it makes total sense, man. I think I have 2 more questions to kind of run through. One, at what points value do you stop playing Mephiston? Because as printed, he's 125 in the codex.
Yeah, I
That can't be right.
no fucking way. I'd say like 160. I'd probably give him a real hard look at 150, depending on the price of the Sanguinor. But I'm
I'm gonna play both, and I'm
confidently.
gonna hate myself for it, and I'm 100% gonna do it.
What'd you say?
I will play both. I would just be like, "Fuck the Calidus,
Oh,
no,
that's so
no
not worth
kill,
it.
just both."
That's not right. That's not the right
That's
thing to do.
fine. I'm okay with being wrong on that one. I love the Sanguinor. I really enjoy playing with him.
Dude, I think he's lovely. He's wonderful most of the time. If only to be like, fuck you, other melee army, when you play them. And frankly, that is more valuable now that you don't have the fight on death interrupt combo.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's super real. Both is expensive though. Both are a lot of points.
Fine. Nothing else matters. I'm
Yeah.
gaining all these points off of the Death Company going down.
No, I mean yes, but I don't know how many.
Enough to upgrade my Calidus to the Mephiston. That's all I'm gonna do.
That's fair. Look, again, that might be fair. Also, it's entirely possible that that list I said before has like too much like JPI and not enough like other thing going on. That could be a real thing.
Yeah, I would
JPI is just
definitely like a squad of scouts in it, just like initially thinking through it.
yeah, and that again, if the points work out such a way that like you can cut one JPI and get 2 scouts, I'm telling you, I'm not adding more enhancements to this
Hey,
list
two
full of epic
subductor units,
heroes.
obviously, that's the real way.
What'd you say? 2
Two
what?
subductor units.
Yeah, fucking maybe, dude. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and the second question is, when the Orc book came out, everybody gushed over how cool that book was, how well, like blah blah blah. Do you think this is the same thing for Blood Angels, where it just looks good because we kind of expecting points values, and that if this book just ends up being overpointed, that everybody's like Blood Angels sucks? Like what, like
I mean,
what is the temper of expectations here? Like, what is it
oh,
going to look like for this book to be bad? What's it going to look like for this book to be good when
I
it comes
mean,
out?
it's a melee only army at its best, right? Unless you're playing the other detachment that we talked about. So points are going to be super important because when you use stuff in a melee army, it often dies afterwards. I think that people lie to themselves if they're saying that like, oh, this book will be good and or fun regardless of points. Like that's just not real. The competitive side of the game is important and we play it for a reason. The Orc book was on release like a good book, and then they beat the fucking shit out of it over like a data slate and it died. And that was sad. I'm hopeful that does not happen to Blood Angels. I don't think that Blood Angels is going to have like tons and tons of build variety because frankly, it's got 3 detachments. I think it'll have some options, but I think it's really easy for the book to just not be very good if it, again, connects with too few resources, or when it connects, the damage is not that good. Frankly, I haven't done a lot of calculatoring with the damage. I'm just looking at like full hit rerolls, +1 attack, +2 strength, and being like, I'll probably kill some shit pretty good.
There's
Maybe I'm
definitely like
wrong.
playing Blood Angels recently been a lot more stuff that like doesn't die to a Death Company brick, and it's like the more that you're just kind of like, wow, that kid's getting sketchier. I'm like fundamentally not sure how this army kills a Deathwing Knight squad, right? That's definitely a very real.
Yeah, you just don't. That matchup's just bad. It is what it is. Like,
Yeah,
Deathwing Knights are fucked up. Sorry,
you're
unlucky.
gonna really appreciate those extra chainsword attacks when you play against a Curse Cultist, though.
That's true. That matchup is free though, so like I
Yes,
can't imagine that being a problem. But
yes, it's very, very, very hard to lose.
yeah.
Oh, dropping the Sanguinor in that matchup is so much fun. You drop in, you kill the first Dark
Oh
Commune, you
yeah.
fall back, kill the second.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like the one that like died is now like that squad is way worse. So like it hits you, doesn't do that much. You hit it, it disappears. Yeah, it's very strong.
Yeah. I think one last thing. Obviously, one kind of a mission, I say a mission, but one thing that wasn't in your list is the fight first enhancement, which is wild. Like that it's just not good enough to make the cut, but it maybe
I
just
just
there isn't a unit to hold it.
I don't have someone to put it on. If somehow all the things that I put in that list leave me room for another unit of Sanguinary Guard, then maybe. But
Yeah. I was definitely looking at stuff like just kind of like the theory chamber of doing stuff like 10 assault intercessors on foot with a captain and a sanguinary priest with the enhancement and stuff like that.
oh,
It's like it's interesting, but I don't know
that's
if it quite
so
gets
many
there. Like I played
points.
against that at War Masters, and it was like kind of compelling with Gabriel Seth. Like you get the +1 AP, you get the Film of Pain, like it
Yeah,
was
but you
Gabriel Seth.
advance and charge all the time. Like that's very different.
Yeah, I know, but it was the same like theory, right? Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
durable unit with, but like you stick
I,
the fight, you stick
it's not really
fight
adorable.
first enhancement on it. Something that's a very difficult unit to deal with in a lot of ways. I can see it being kind of interesting, but yeah, maybe not quite.
It's too much work, too many steps. Like the reason Blood Angels, in my opinion, are good is like they're basically like the opposite of the way that our boy Frank makes an army, right? There's like no 3-step plan for anything in Blood Angels. It's all just like this unit goes fast and punches you in the mouth. Sometimes you give it one command point. That's it.
Sometimes
Like,
if it's a really small unit, it gets as a fluffer.
yeah, it gets a little pat on the butt, a little extra from dad, you know? But
Like
that's
you get Gulliman in the sky saying that thing,
yeah,
go
fuck that
die.
guy. Yeah. That's it though. So I think that like the more you're like, I'm gonna take a captain and a priest and a big squad that doesn't have
And a
a
Land Ranger.
transport. Yeah, exactly. That's like, all right, that combo is 30 jump pack dudes worth of combo.
Yes, that is the issue.
Don't do that.
That's fair. What do you think of the new DC Dread? Blood
I think
Surge is
it's
a hell of a rule, but
I think it's real bad. Blood Surge is really good on infantry models. It's really bad on vehicles and monsters. Because you get into melee and you're like, I did it. And then your opponent's like, die anyway. And then you're super sad.
yeah, that's why Old One Eye is notoriously terrible.
I mean, he's not good because of his Blood Surge, but
It certainly helps.
I guess.
I've seen Lennon pop it off enough times to be like, Blood Surge on Old One is pretty good.
Yeah, it goes forward, but like, whoa,
yeah,
hold on.
That's actually an interesting shout. Dante
No.
or Fight First Jump Captain?
I was just going to point that out and be like, actually, that is a terrible idea. Because that captain doesn't give you +1 to advance, nor charge, nor hit. Fuck that guy.
He gives +1 strength and free strat.
That's adorable. You know what else does? The detachment rule and a command point. Fuck that shit. You don't have anything else to spend your strats on these days. Advance and charge and fall back and charge is like one thing. You're basically just like an AOC and Lance detachment.
They're different strats. You can use both.
Sure. What I'm saying is that like that detachment is like enable a charge, armor of contempt, Lance. Finished. Right? That's 4 of the strats.
Dude, I'm just trying to get you to say things on the air.
Yeah,
That's all I'm here for. I just want to pull opinions out of you in the talk to you section, Anthony.
Yeah. No, don't do that. You can do that, but only if it's your second unit of Sanguinary Guard. If for some reason the Astorath brick doesn't work out to be worth running, and for some reason we're on like Sangard 2 plus Jump Pack Captain, maybe that'll be worth it. Realistically, I could see a world where like this would require like very large amounts of reps and you'd have to get real comfortable with the positioning. But like you work out that you can keep your first Death Company unit near enough to your second one that it doesn't need to be a chaplain leading the second one, and then you want +1 from the dude on there. Like you take a captain with the enhancement and then you're just doing all that shit. You can do that. Or you can take like a regular jump pack chaplain, maybe.
That was what I was kind of thinking, maybe over Astrath that the Dev just doesn't end up playing out that well.
Man, that's a lot worse. Also, like Blood Angels units when they're not charging are like way less scary, kind of in general. So
yeah, but you get +1 strength on them, like or you get the +1 to wound from the chaplain at that point. Like,
well, no, and then you could use Savage Echoes. It's a real thing. It's not bad. It's just worse.
Again, kind of like, what's the expected value of the amount of dev wounds you're actually getting from Astorath, right? That's kind of the question.
I mean, his unit gets a lot of like a lot of hits when it when it swings.
20 attacks from the damage 2s, right? So you're expecting probably like 15-ish hits, given that some of them is 4, like 18 hits with some of them being 4, somewhere between like 15 and 18.
Yeah.
And then you're talking like it's only realistically 3 dev wounds. Like it's
but that's 6 damage of like don't take a save, bitch, just take it.
6 damage, but like there's the asterisk there that you introduce like the like on average, if your opponent was saving on 5s, it's only really 4, right? Because they would have taken 2 of them. They would have taken 4 of them anyway, right?
Yeah,
so it's
look,
2 extra damage. Like maybe Astorath's just not quite there.
I'm leaving room open that it is entirely possible that it is better to have a jump pack chaplain with the fight first enhancement instead of Astorath. It is certainly not better than Lamarte's. I've seen people talk about cutting Lamarte's. That shit is crazy.
Lamarte starts filled in your list when you build the Blood Death.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Trying to not take him. It is like even when people are like, but the menace from damage doesn't always matter. I'm like, it always matters because it always has to overcommit to them or gets it wrong or just gives you scam opportunity. Just play the menace from damage and stop being a bitch.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I could definitely see because like the fight on death is part of the Astorath's like component for running him, and fight first is just better than that.
Yes and no.
Just better than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can use Astorath to mitigate a interrupt, right? In ways that you can't with fight first. So like kinda better.
Yeah, there's definitely like there's pros and cons to both, and I think it would be interesting. There is also the world where you just run 3 bricks.
You could do that. Maybe it gets crazy.
Maybe you're just like, or you do the other kind of thing that's maybe in that space is you could do the second impulsor with the second captain.
I wouldn't do that. I would definitely be trying to have whatever has fights first be Death Company because I do not want to have to preemptively oaths. That sounds terrible. Also,
Yeah,
what you could do as well, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, is you take a 5-man of Death Company jump dudes with a chaplain and use it as heroic help.
yeah, like a third little 5-man, maybe over like one of the JPI squads.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be over like a couple of things because you'll need a
Yeah,
character with an enhancement to go in your
yeah,
5-man.
yeah.
But you
That chaplain's
use
pretty cheap, but
but you use it as like heroic bait, right? So now you get to heroic. You don't need to Savage Echoes. You can
yeah, you've
do
got
other
Mephiston
stuff.
plus that little unit as like double
Yeah,
heroic options. If your Lamartis gets precisioned out, you have a secondary chaplain following around.
yeah, it's not bad. Well, in this scenario, you'd have 3 chaplains, but yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like you're obviously your Lamartis gets ever sorted out, and then your Astrath gets shot out by the Vindicator assassin. So you're like,
that's a
God, I still need OC.
damn it. Yeah, yeah, you have your third guy on board, and that's why the Vindicator is 150 points, folks.
Exactly, because you need to cover for the needs to cover for the triple chaplain Blood Angels meta.
Yep.
All right, I think that'll wrap it up for general Blood Angel stuff. Obviously, I think everybody can confirm that we're both fairly excited about the book. I need to actually get around to ordering it, but I will definitely be picking them up and putting them on the table a little bit. Very excited to see where that goes out, and I think they are, they're cool. I think they're a lot more exciting to me than the Dark Angels book was, in the sense that it looks like it actually has, you know, power level notwithstanding, a lot of the ideas of things that people want to play in Dark Angels or in Blood Angels, which is go fast, hit hard,
Yeah.
and like good characters. Where Dark Angels definitely felt like it was missing a lot of the do anything stratagems. Like it's ended up being like powerful data sheets and a few things like that, but a lot of stuff that happened with like the Dark Angels release was stuff that was in the index got pulled out and replaced with nothing or garbage. Like the lion losing his -1 to wound. It doesn't matter how many points you put the lion down. When you go from having durable lion to not durable lion, it's going to feel shit to use the lion.
Yeah.
Whereas Blood Angels, it really does feel like, with the possible exception of like losing fight on death, like if and like obviously the
Yeah.
warrior stuff with Death Company that I think we all knew was kind of
There
not
was
long
no
for this
way.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody was looking at that was like, okay, so we're gonna ride this as long as we physically can, but you can't be upset when this goes, right?
Yeah.
When that unit gets box locked. And it was much more generous than box locking, I think, for that unit, getting like 5 per 10 instead of what it would have been two per 10 if it had just been as the base kit, is like fairly generous, I think.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing that you could like really be upset about, is the lack of Inferno pistols now, which fair enough. But it feels like all the characters got made better. Dante got a strength point and got a +1 to advance. There's an advance and charge stratagem. There's Mephiston's a beefcake now, where he was kind of unplayable before, right?
Yeah.
And then a bunch of stuff that was there that was cool that people liked, like buff captain stratagems and the cool Sanguinor stuff, are all still there, thematically the same. And I think that works out a lot better than Dark Angel, which kind of just came out as a bit of a wet squib. And I hope that there's more like this philosophy with when we see like Black Templars and Space Wolves. Obviously, I think that's kind of the big ones that are still waiting.
Yeah, I mean, they
Um,
got Blood Angels thematically correct, right? Which is the important bit. And then hopefully it's not too expensive so it can be competitively viable. Otherwise, people will be less excited.
Yeah, I mean, Suns has Liberator has a very Gladius feel to it, right? Just
Yeah, which is dope.
flexibility and options, right? Where even if I, I honestly feel like even if Blood Angels are not amazing competitively viably, you could still put the coolest parts of a Blood Angels army and then play good Space Marine data sheets in your other 800 points, and you could be like, all right, I'm playing the 2 Death Company bricks that work for me, and then playing
Yeah.
Lancers and Reapers and Redemptor Dreadnoughts and just like whatever was good meta wise right now, right? If all that stuff was like super cheap, and like Blood Angels, you couldn't play an army of it, but you could still play this detachment and feel like you had an army rule, because there's a fallback and shoot stratagem, which actually helps for stuff. If you wanted to play like Vindicators and Ball Predators, like there's actually a bit of diversity in that because it has a fallback and shoot, right? Which current Sons of Sanguinius just doesn't have.
Right.
Which I think definitely helps out for just kind of like long-term competitive viability. Even if it's not at the top of the meta in 6 months' time, there's still like an army there that you can play. Whereas, like we were talking about with Orcs earlier, it kind of feels like that, like Plan B has been missing. Whereas some of these attachments feel like there is at least one. Like you could play Angel Strike Force and you can play the Inceptors build, right? Rather than having to lean into like pure bundle melee if all that stuff gets pointed into oblivion because Anthony keeps crushing people with it, you asshole.
I would never.
You would definitely.
I don't even have any Blood Angel events on the books right
Except
now,
maybe Cali Cup.
except maybe Cali Cup. But look at this cat. I'm going to leave this cat to go to California. Come on.
Hey Pickles. How you doing, Pickles? I
She's
hope
doing
you're well.
great.
She very clearly is. Right. Anthony has 5 minutes left. Let's blitz through the questions. There are not a ton of them because we posted up about the show very late this week. So we're going to go through them as quickly as we can. I will finish off once Anthony has to bail. Yeah, it looks like we have about 10 or so. So first, give us your best Blood Angels list. We've done that already. Go and read back. If you want to run NIDs for the next few months on UKTC, what list would you recommend starting with? I would probably start with the list that Nathan Roberts played that did really well on UKTC and give that a shot and then tweak it for your personal playstyle. There is a lot of diversity in turrets for like which monsters you like. All of them are kind of reasonable. You have the like the slightly more melee focused stuff with like the Trigon and the Moloch. You have the Tran effects, you have the X Queen, you have the Maliceptor, and like none of them are like objectively wrong. They are just metagame units. For me, I'm a Maliceptor and X Queen lover, so I would lean to those. But the Rupture effects are incredibly good right now, but they
Dude,
do
those
suffer in
things
some
are
matchups.
funny.
They are really bad in Two Sisters, though. So there's always like metagame. There's always metagame decisions that you can make there. But I would definitely suggest starting off with something like that. Or potentially, if you want to go down the route of trying, I really like my Synaptic Nexus list. I definitely think it is got competitive legs, and I would love to recommend it to anybody who wanted to have a go of that. Anthony, any thoughts?
No, that all sounds real. Crusher, cool. Crusher, strong. Play Crusher like Iron Storm. Take as many monsters as you can. It's okay. They can do actions too. Just play like 11
I'm in
monster
like
Crusher.
units. I really feel like Tyranid players should probably all be playing 2x3 Raveners right now. They're really good. They have
Nah,
deep
fuck
strike and
that.
up down. Like just put Raveners in.
Biovore.
Get rid of Hormagaunts.
Biovore, one Hormagaunt unit, monsters.
That's probably fair. Like two lictors.
Oh yeah, you could have those too.
Yeah. Is there any form of physical exercise in particular you would recommend incorporate in your lifestyle to prepare for playing multiple days of 40k?
Walking. Just go walking a bunch. That's it.
Anthony's that's what I do. It's been getting better. Could Norns work in UKTC meta now? No, Norns are bad. Please stop using Norns.
They're really
I
cool
love
though.
them. They're so cool. They're one of my favorite models to come out of the last deck. I wish they were so much bigger than they are. They're so small for Tyranid Big Knights.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, don't play Norns. I like One Assimilator, but it's not a competitively viable unit right now. It is fringe playable. There's a secret missions question that the author has posed in chat saying that we can skip.
Wait, which one is that? Is that Ed
The
saying
Bryce
we
one?
can skip it, or is that Bryce?
I think it's Bryce.
Okay.
Yeah. But secret missions are very swingy. I don't love them. I have pulled off a bunch of them recently with GSE, which is frustrating because I'm like, this is objectively correct to do, and I hate it. So I kind of wish that that was not a thing. I think catch-up mechanics were somewhere between gambits and secret missions. There is something that is okay for like giving you an option in close games that you can take a high risk, high reward path through for trying to get like over a difference of like 10 points off of like bad cards. But I think the catch up mechanic being like a primary based one this heavily is a mistake. And I think that there is mileage for something that goes significantly lower power level that maybe helps you like swing a couple bad cards early. And I think that's kind of the thing that I would maybe be looking at rather than this. But
I think that secret missions should stay as they are and then go to Crusade.
Yeah, I would strongly be in favor of just banning them from tournaments, personally.
Yep.
But
also consider just moving them to secondary points. I would also accept that.
Yeah, they cap you 20 primary, but you can catch up 20 extra on secondary. Yeah. Or you stop scoring primary when you pick one.
Yeah, you stop scoring immediately, and you can get 20 more points on secondaries. Go get them, soldier.
Which ones did you pull up at WTC, Anthony?
Unbroken Wall on the Ritual. Shout out Chris Kinnear. Definitely deserved to win that game from a singles perspective. You didn't just table me on 3, basically. Thumbs up. Good design. And then I did whatever the fucking battle line in People's
War of Attrition, yeah.
That one. I did that one. Twice.
Rude.
Yep.
With Agents of the Imperial Codex Live, do you think it will be able to stand on its own, or will it need to bring Canis Rex? There are not a lot of data sheets in that book, and Canis Rex is really strong. You already don't have an army rule, so Canis Rex doesn't get any worse. I would probably just play Canis Rex.
Yeah. I mean, Canis Rex doesn't cost that many points, and the Imperial Agents units don't cost that many points. You have room.
Yeah, and there's just not a lot. Like, that book is wide but not deep. There is only so much you need, like, the 7th best chaff unit in that book, right? Like, you already have the 3 Navy breacher squads, the 3 subductor units, right? That's 6 great chaff units. You do not need to bring, like the 7th exaction squad, right? Like, come on, what are we doing? Unless you want to play like pure horde, in which case just go and play AdMech and suck it up.
Yep. On that note, I gotta go. Bye.
Bye, Anthony. I'm going to finish out the last of the questions before we finish out, and then I will probably take a couple from chat to like kind of push us to like the hour and 15 mark, and then I will bail as well. We have Imperial Nexus. Is Imperial Nexus actually competitively good or just good for mid-table gameplay? And what needs to change for the pack to be good across the board? It's a really weird question because I mean, I'm still really enjoying Prior Nexus, but I have the really enjoys Warhammer gene like embedded in my brain. So I'm functionally incapable of having a bad time while I'm playing Warhammer or planning for Warhammer. It's just it kind of sucks like that. I feel like at the moment a lot of the problems I'm seeing are coming from the game becoming so heavily incentivized to go second because there are so many catch-up mechanics available for playing going second now. You get endgame scoring, you get secret mission options, you have better rapid ingress options, you get to see where your opponent's deep strikes are earlier, just like lots of things that are much better for the player going second. I would say chief among them rapid ingress secret missions and end of game scoring. And then you just have like some missions like supply drop and purge the foe that are even more incentivized going second. And what that's done is it's kind of created this requirement for your game plan to be so resilient to the idea of going first that you can apply so much pressure and do so much damage that you kind of get polarized into your game plan is go second and stall or go first and full like all gas no brakes, and there's not a lot of kind of in between options. It's quite hard to play a slow game going first now, and there are lots of lists and lots of factions and lots of players that want to play a slow game going first, and you get locked into this kind of requirement to be aggressive that definitely puts us into a um like kind of a feedback loop where lists are getting more and more tuned towards going first. I wouldn't play a list right now that was uncomfortable with going first. When you talk about things like World Eaters, Votan, the GSM I'm playing right now has a ton of scout because I need to apply pressure if I'm going first. So I would be looking, and then I kind of look at that on the side. I'm like, well, if I'm building a list that needs to be able to go second against those, I need to incorporate more stuff to infiltrate so that I can move block my opponent's scouts and more stuff to stall because if I go second against Wolf Jail, I need to be able to stall them long enough to like make it to late game and catch those points. But I know that I can do it, and I only really need to deny them like 10 primary on the way through to be able to match them. If I can deny them 15, I'm quids in, right? Like I'm probably winning on primary now. So you kind of end up in this like your lists have to be simultaneously incredibly good at pressure, incredibly good at stalling, but that's at like the top levels. At the middle tables, I'm sure there's still a lot of people just bashing their armies into each other and seeing what comes out in the wash, which is probably fine, right? A lot of those games are probably not being determined by secret missions in the same way. Like a lot of those games are going to be both of you are fairly even on primary, both of you are expecting to score 40 anyway. Does secret mission even really help if you're just kind of knocking against each other? Um, I've not had a lot of games be pushed by secret missions myself, right? I've played a lot of games where the idea that my opponent could secret mission has resulted in just playing a slower game, right? My opponent could secret mission, so why would I bother trying to deny them primary, right? Playing against like Necrons going second in supply drop. Like if my opponent wants to stand on 15 primary in the middle on turn one, and it doesn't benefit me to do like for other reasons to take them off it, there's no downside to me letting them have it if I already got mine right. Like obviously I could stop them secret missioning, right? But my opponent's gonna get a 10, right? And I got a 5 and an 8, and I know my opponent's about to get the 10. And I'm like, well, why would I stop this, right? They're already going to secret mission. They're going to get their, 35 at the end because it's hypercrypt. How am I going to stop it? Like, why would I bother? And then I just focus on dealing with the secret mission stuff. Like, I'm not incentivized to interact with their scoring in the same way. And it just creates this really awkward incentive for both players. I think what needs to change for the pack to be good. I almost feel like redraw should just probably not be a command point stratagem. You should like just using the rule from like Leviathan of just doing like draw three, discard two, and just making secondary reference. I could also see maybe like giving a more reasonable fixed secondary plan, helping with that because you can kind of predict your plans more reasonably. I don't know if it can be as simple as like pushing established locus back to 3 points like the Poitel homers because it was too consistent. But there's definitely a middle ground in there where it doesn't just feel like you have to opt into the get scanned on tactical game, right? Get scanned on tactical in like massive bunny ear air quotes, but it does feel like there's a lot of decision making you have to go into that where every game definitely at some point comes down to how good cards did you draw. or unless they're like really like just blowout games, which are not the ones that we're talking about in this situation. Um, but the fact that you do have, a little bit more control over your card draw now with being able to use new orders encourage you to play safer as well, because if you play super aggressively and you're burning all your command points on, like very aggressively dealing damage and using defensive stratagems, and then you don't have it for new orders, you are much more vulnerable to getting scanned on cards. And then when primary is so consistently scored in this pack, because like you're just both expecting to hit 40-ish points, like the games are going to come down to secondary differential in close games a lot more. And if you're the person that's not using new orders, your opponent is, because they're just playing on defense and just using new orders and drawing all their cards, and you're on offense and you're getting pressured and you're drawing, like, oh, I just drew established roll because I don't have a unit that can afford to do it this turn because I'm applying pressure because I have to deal with my opponent's ability to score points. You might just find yourself falling behind on that, and so you kind of default into, well, can I afford to push this turn? I've just drawn, I drew like a 3-point card and a 2-point card in turn one, and I didn't do the 2-point card to get the CP. Now I'm going to turn two. I've just drawn like a 3-point card and a 2-point card. I'm like, do I use new orders here? But I really want to do my go turn now. I want to push. And then it becomes really difficult to like make those decisions. And it's really easy to get it wrong. And that it's just created a very defensive format, I think. And generally, I think 40k is worse when being the aggressor is bad. Being the person who is on the front foot and being the person taking initiative and making decisions should be incentivized, right? You are the person that is taking the outgoing risk. You should be rewarded for it in a game. So I think ultimately a lot of it just kind of spirals back to secret mission bad. It raises the points floor. There we go. It raises the minimum amount of points scored in a game quite a lot. Which means that you are significantly more vulnerable to small primary variants and secondary variants, which then results in a feedback loop where you have to aggressively like not interact with your opponent to avoid falling victim to that feedback loop, and that is just kind of boring. I want to go and beat the brakes off my opponent. I don't want to sit in my opponent's zone and try to draw better Yu-Gi-Oh cards than them. Sorry, that was a lot of like, I'm a little bit rambly, so apologies for that. Okay, how pumped are we for spicy new Blood Angels rules? Any early predictions on nerfs of the new rules? Mephiston, I can't imagine being that launching at 125 points. It is far too cheap. Um, Everything else I think is broadly fine. 115 for Jump Death Company. You're paying 35 points for the full hit rerolls, but losing the more wounds of the charge and gaining the extra like special weapons for 5, which I think seems fine. It's definitely like, if you put it into like 9th edition terms, 10 points for the Parapet, 10 points for the Eviscerator, 15 points for the Data Sheet upgrades. Like, that seems reasonable. I can't imagine them changing much. And then everything else seems kind of fine. I think Sanguinary Guard at 50 to me seems quite expensive. I know Anthony was quite excited about them. I would not like at 50 points, they are more expensive than Deathwing Knights. Deathwing Knights being 47 points a model. I could see them maybe coming down to like 40, maybe 45 per model. At which point they become incredibly, incredibly competitive, and like I would be worried at that points value. Maybe they're not like there, but I could definitely see just being like, oh, that's way too cheap if they were 120 per 3. But at 150 to me, it just kind of like it sits in that kind of points range where I'm like, I'm not sure I could justify that. So I think that's a unit that will kind of play on a knife's edge. It seems interesting. Also, thank you for the War Masters Dark Angels recap. When can we expect some new content? The next one for that, so I'm going to the Sheffield Hellstorm Wargaming Super All Stars in Sheffield this weekend. So I'm traveling down for that on Friday. Time speaking in 2.5 days. I'm taking Gene Cults to that. I'm playing Outlander Claw. So I'll be doing post content for that. So when I get back on the Monday or the Tuesday, I will sit down and I will do the exact same thing that I just did for the War Masters. I will probably aim to do it on the Monday for release that night, if I have time to do it when I get back. Otherwise, it'll be the Wednesday for release Wednesday. So you can probably expect it like either 6 days from now or 8 days from now. It will not come out on the Tuesday of the show because I won't put it up on the same day. It'll either be the Monday or the Wednesday afterwards. And I would need to have a look at the other shows' release schedules because I don't know if anybody else is planning on dropping content on either of those days. Because again, I don't want to like over compete them. I will be looking at including a couple of the upgrades that people spoke about. So one is I will try to take deployment pictures at the very least to just kind of like put something up to just kind of go like, and here is like what I did to try to do that. Talk about any mistakes and stuff like that. I will probably not take a ton of in-game pictures. I'm not super great about remembering to do those. But the idea with the show isn't to go super in depth through all my games. It's mostly to kind of do this is the theory behind why I took the game approach I did, and then did it work or not, rather than it being like here is the blow by blow of what happened. I'll obviously talk about like highlights and most interesting moments, kind of the same as I did, but I kind of want to try to keep it to like a couple minutes per game rather than being like, here is a 15-minute rundown of every game I played, because there's a lot of people out there doing that. It's not content that's super like I want to make. I don't really love doing blow by blows. I find them quite difficult to pull off, and they require a lot of like context and information that I just don't want to like don't necessarily have in terms of like pictures and stuff like that. But nothing wrong with anybody who does that kind of content, right? It just isn't the kind of content I want to make. I would much rather make more like higher level stuff with a higher level like um outside of the game stuff with the kind of like the metagame theory behind those choices. So yeah, you can probably expect that in either 6 or 8 days from now at time of recording. And then the one after that, I will probably be nothing until Champs Cup, which I'll be playing something for, as I'm sure you heard the discussion. Currently looking at taking Junior Cup for that, but we'll see what happens. Depends a little bit on how my day one goes at Sheffield. But yeah, what we'll be doing for something for that. We'll also be doing a bit of bonus content around that for patrons. So we'll be doing a little bit of a pre-show, kind of talking about like how we built our comp, how we made some of our list decisions, that kind of stuff, what we were looking at in terms of the field, and then I will try to do some like at the event interviews with like players, kind of grabbing them after rounds if I have time. A little bit depends on like what the venue like noise is like, right? If the venue's way too loud or there isn't, like time between rounds for that, like that may not count. And then we'll do a bit of post analysis as well, and then I'll also do my individual like 6 game rundown for that one. And then the week after that, I'll have LGT, which I will probably play the same list score that I play for Champs Cup, but not guaranteed. I will be taking their immediate back-to-back weekends, but I'm going down to stay with Brian Sykes the night before I fly to Dallas. So I'm gonna take another army down to Dallas or to London with me and leave it at Brian so that I can come back and change army for LGT if I decide I want to. Because the worst feeling would be going to Champs Cup, having an absolutely terrible time with whatever army I play, and then having to submit it for the next the 800 player tournament for trying to win the ITC season immediately following it. So I'll be a little bit flexible there. So yeah, you can probably expect 3 in September, and then one for Sheffield, one for Champs Cup, one for LGT. The LGT one will probably release in October actually, so probably 2 next month, and then 2 the month after that, kind of thing. Yeah, so like I said, roughly aiming for 2 a month. I usually do around 2 tournaments a month, but yeah, that's definitely a thing you could do. Would it be too much to ask to have someone take notes of pairings each game so you could talk about it afterwards? I don't know if it would be too much. Like there will probably be in our pairings matrix anyway, because we will take a note of like who is the attacker and who is the defender. As far as running through decision making, that's probably a thing that I think Typhus and Pumbaa are going to be running our pairings for the event. So that might be a thing that they don't enter the matrix. But I will definitely bring it up. I'll definitely bring it up to them or fire a note at them in the Discord, and just kind of mention that that's the thing that you would like, and we'll definitely have a look at seeing if we can do that. We have one more question here, which is how good are foot soldiering power units, e.g., assault centurions, terminators, and aggressors in the New Blood News book? I don't know. I don't really like any of those data sheets without like fairly aggressive buffs. Assault Centurions specifically just kind of don't do a lot. They're really slow. Like even with advance and shoot, like the speed on that unit just isn't that high. The melee output is good, but not good enough to be worth committing to like advance and charging with. When you have access to like death company units that just do more damage. And the durability is like again, the durability is fine on that unit, but it's not so high that you are going to like be able to stand in the open in the current environment, right? Melta Sisters or Thousand Suns are just going to kind of lift your unit anyway. Aggressors don't have enough buffs in this detachment, just straight up. The aggressor unit benefits mostly from being able to like compound buffs really well because of the volume of shots it has. It just it stacks up any buff really well. So that's why we see it in Gladius, where you can run an Apothecary Biologist who gives them lethal hits, and then you can run the Bolt of Discipline enhancement or Fire Discipline enhancement for sustained hits, and then critical fives. And then you can use Storm of Fire, and then suddenly their AP2 ignore cover crit fives full rerolls to hit and wound, or sorry, hit and damage, hit full rolls to hit sustained, and they just they kill Magnus in an activation. Maybe not anymore without the full wound rerolls. I've not used that unit since Oath was nerfed, but when Oath got nerfed, we saw that unit kind of fall off the face of the earth because it just doesn't have the volume of wound rerolls. Just not quite, into that same space. When you transport that unit over to a detachment like Liberator, where you just don't have anything that's going to boost that output, right? Like the best thing you can do is you could put a captain with them for free strat. So, but like they're just not they're not good enough at shooting to be worth buffing, and there's no buffs to put on them, and they're not good enough at power output, like damage, to be worth, like, you're never going to use your advanced charge on what to be 24 power fist attacks when you could put it on a death company squad that has that but also full rules and some oath, right? So it's super difficult to justify using them on like these jack of all trade units, right? You need to be getting so much out of the base unit when it doesn't have buffs to be willing to buff it, and then you send them through the sun by giving them like stuff on top of that, where you're spending all your resources on trying to make this kind of awkward unit playable rather than doubling down on a good thing. The best builds in 40k tend to be take a good thing, do it better, rather than like cover the weaknesses of bad things and then like make them playable. Like, yes, you could do all those things, but is that going to be better than just playing it in Gladius? Probably not. And I think that's really difficult. Just there's so much fighting against you, and that's why we've seen like um Gladius even move towards the Eradicator brick, because it's just more consistent. It doesn't require oath moment to kill anything that is a vehicle or monster, and you're not kind of committing to trying to use like multiple resources on it, right? Again, it's that kind of awkward thing. Aggressors are a shooting unit. They don't want to be in combat because then they are, it's much harder to shoot with them. You're committing to like using a strat on fallback shoot and charge on them, and then that's a CP, and then they fall back and they charge back in, but they're not that durable and they don't hit that hard, right? Yes, that twin link power fists, but it's not, it's just not that good. So I think you just kind of end up with it being quite difficult to justify putting that unit into the point slots when it needs so much support and doesn't sing with that support. It just becomes okay, where you could just play units that just benefit from all your rules. And that's always the difficult part with stuff like that, is that you kind of, unless the synergies are just insane, you almost are always better just putting good units in your list rather than trying to make bad units work because the stratagems support it. Unless you have stuff that just literally turbocharges the data sheet. Trying to think of examples. But like Vanguard Invader Terrorists would be an example, right? Where the Vanguard Invader keyword detachment makes units so much more playable that you can kind of get away with running stuff that you wouldn't touch in other detachments, purely because that detachment buffs them so much that it's there. But a lot of that is passive buffs rather than active buffs. It's, if you were to use the stratagem, it's just better, right? You can just hit 2 units, or you just get advance in charge, right? Like, it's not a thing you have to commit a resource to. Whereas in aggressors, aggressors as terminators, you're saying, instead of using this advanced charge resource on my death company squad, I'm going to use it on this slow unit that needs it, instead of making this, fast unit more reliable. That tends to be, kind of a difficult thing to do. And that applies in almost all books across the game. It's almost always better to just play a good unit that synergizes with the detachment rather than playing a bad unit that synergizes with the detachment but requires investment, where you could just play the good thing instead, right? It's why Tau builds almost all still play Riptides, right? And you might switch between which suit is best if you're going to play some suits, or you play Breachers because Breachers are good anyway, rather than being like, well, this detachment synergizes really well with, Crew Rampagers, so I'm going to play a bunch of them because they get, don't do that, right? That's not a good data sheet in context. Just play the good things. It's almost always better advice in 40k. Play the good thing. Don't be cute. Worry about being cute once you're winning tournaments. People are chatting about my pure titan Kyle Grundy, saying try to win the ITC. Game on. Kyle, don't worry about it. Like, you're playing Tau. We all know that nobody knows what that army does, but like, as people get towards playing the bigger events, Tau are going to drop off, man. Don't worry about it. I'm every confidence that will be fine. And thank you for the Smash All Stars. How do you counter work blitz? Move block, get in their face, charge them, um, shooting from behind screens. Make sure you bring like some level of interaction with like early activation rush. So a lot of the way the orcs kind of get their wins, and a lot of these rush armies, is they use the fact that they could do it to force you to play a certain way. So if an orc army kind of stages up into the midfield and sits in all the middle ruins and like behind walls and kind of out of shooting range, and goes, okay, it's your turn, and you're kind of sit there and you kind of get put into that like two bad choices, right? You can either go forward to try to take the mid war pressure off them because they're standing on all the objectives, trying to score a bunch of points, and you walk into them, and then they go, oh, you came close enough that I don't need to wah, and they run at you and they hit you and then you die, and then you try to catch up, and then they wah and they run over you. Or you walk backwards and they stand there and they go, oh cool, you're far enough away that I don't need to wah, and they sit there and they score a bunch of points, and they keep doing that, and you keep having the same choice, and you keep having to make the right one. So you kind of, a lot of what I'm looking to do against armies like orcs, and it's not specific to every situation, like pick the areas that you can move block, that you can restrict, that you can interact with, right? Deploy aggressively enough that you can threaten one or two of their staging ruins, some shooting or some melee, go and charge some things. And then pick your battles. Where can you move block, right? Can you get a squad of dudes in front of these two trucks, right? Cool. You know that side's safe. You can stage up. You can threaten that stuff. You know that if that stuff comes out in the transport, it's going to hit screens, right? You know that. And then you know that the left hand side, you pick the right hand side of the board, you screen that off, you restrict, you kill some stuff there, you weaken that side. Well, that's my strong area. I know that I'm not going to take a ton of interaction here. What about the other side? Okay, a lot of what I'm looking at here is stuff like how can I make it so they're going to throw a bunch of risky charges, because those orc units, their movement 6, their movement 12, whatever. You go, all right, expected value of movement there is, if they roll a 4 on their advance and an 8 on their charge, which is like slightly above average and slightly above average, I should expect those units to be able to comfortably reach things within 19 of them. So if I stand 20 inches away from them or 21 inches away from them, I know that most units that don't roll a 5 or 6 in their advance aren't going to comfortably get in. And they might throw a couple of, Hail Marys with like units that go like 7 or 8. They'll have a couple double sixes, but they're unlikely to hit those. If they hit them, cool. Vortic is a game of risk management. And the rest of them, you kind of go, all right, only the things that hit 5s and 6s are going to comfortably get in. Anything that hits a 4 is probably not getting in. Anything that's less than that is almost definitely not getting in. Okay, well, that's only a third of their army and half of their army. And a third of their army is, of those units. So you kind of, that of the things that are on that side, you're probably going to get hit by about a third to half of them. And then you have to make a decision like, what are you willing to have get hit by those, right? Where can you pressure? Can you put 6 units there knowing that only 3 of your opponent's units are going to connect and you'll have 3 to deal with it and feel comfortable that you can do that? And if you can't, then you have to stand off and look for an alternative path, right? You have to place more onto your strong side, or you didn't create a strong side in your deployment, right? You need to deploy to give yourself options. You can't just seed the midboard. And that's what I was kind of talking about earlier with kind of one of the issues with Prior Nexus. You have to deploy with a level of aggression that if you go first or if you go second, you are comfortable with what your opponent does. If your opponent walked into the entire midboard and you go, oops, I guess I lose, you deployed badly. Or you played a list that was bad, right? Those are kind of the two options. You needed to have an answer for your opponent doing a thing. You need to make your opponent suffer for their decision making. They can't just do whatever they want. It's a game of action and reaction. And if they have done an action and you didn't have a reaction for it, and that action was walk forward, you have fundamentally misunderstood how you're approaching this game. If your opponent walks into the midfield and you go, oh crap, I didn't think you'd hide from me, or oh, I have to run away from you now, then you needed to deploy differently, right? You needed to give yourself better options during deployment. I think that's all I have on that one. Thank you for the question. Last one: can GSC beat Catan from Hellstorm Wargaming? We're gonna find out, aren't we? I hope so. I think it'd be a lot. I think it'd be a lot funnier if they could. But maybe Josh will lose to someone else, and I won't even have to. Wouldn't that be fun? Or maybe I'll lose to someone else, and Josh won't have to beat me. I don't know. I've beaten Josh every time I've ever played him in singles. So, but that was it's not been. It's been about a year since we played, maybe a little longer. So it'll be good to get the opportunity to play him again. All right. If that is it for questions, I don't see any more coming in on the chat. But thank you guys for bearing with me for the last 20 minutes or so of Anthony List, me rambling. Apparently, it's turning into a running trend that I will ramble at the end of these show in a solo content for a bit. Let me do the plugs and then I have to. Oh god, I have so much to do. I have to go do the plugs, and I have to do the shout outs. Oh, why do people dump me with this? I'm so good at running solo shows. He said, lying. So, plugs. I have a bunch of stuff to plug. So, if you've enjoyed the show and you would like to support us and you're in a position to, please do check out patreon.com/statcheck. $5 a month gets you access to our Discord server, our discount code for Red Dragon, which is our sponsor out in Canada, and also early access to the bonus content. So, things like the Dark Angel show I put out as bonus content first, so patrons had a chance to kind of weigh in and give some feedback on it, and obviously that'll be listened to a little more aggressively. And then we'll be doing a bit of extra content around Champs Cup that will be coming out through the Patreon bonus content. You can also check out youtube.com/statcheck for the live shows if you're listening to the podcast or you're listening on YouTube or wherever else you may find your show. Likes, comments, subscriptions, and all that kind of stuff helps out a ton. It's insane how much just like saying that actually helps out. Sometimes if we forget to say one episode, the episode will have like 3 comments on it, and then the bonus show had like 20 something on it or something like that. So yeah, it really does help. It really helps us out with just like getting seen and being able to continue to do more of this cool stuff. If you'd like to get help from either myself, who else is on it right now? Jeremy, Pumbaa coming soon, Tyler or Nicholas Olsen Johnson. Check out stat-check.com/coaching or drop us an email at coaching@stat-check.com if you would like us, if you would like to work with us on getting better at 40k, whether you've got an event coming up or you just want to prep for getting better against your locals, drop us an email. We would love to help you out and see where we can go. Please do check out our sponsors. As I mentioned before, Red Dragon, red-dragon.ca are our title sponsor. StatCheck patrons can get 20% off on the entire store, but they're a one-stop shop for 40k, Magic, board games, all that kind of stuff. Dan is one of the best people that I've ever met. I'm really looking forward to, or ever worked with. I'm really looking forward to getting to meet him at Champs Cup. So yeah, do check out Red Dragon. You can check out Saltar Games on Etsy and also J15 Games on Etsy. They both make tokens and widgets and things like that. You can get WC terrain through Saltar Games in the UK, and if you're looking for GW style US terrain, check out J15 Games on Etsy as well. They both have codes. I think it's StatCheck15 for Saltar and StatCheck for StatCheck 15 for Saltar and StatCheck for J15. Wow, that's not confusing. That will get you a discount off on their store. And then you can check out Will and Yutani terrain for actual WC terrain from the makers, and you can use code StatCheck5 for 5% off there, and that's wayland-utani.inc-inc. Definitely not one that confuses me after having seen Alien on online a bunch recently. So yeah, I think it's a good place to be. I have one last thing to do. I have to read out this stupid list of goddamn names for the high five. We have a $15 patron tier that basically gets your name shouted out at the end of the show specifically. So the callouts I have for this week are Christopher Dan Finnis Ayer Irvine, Willow Weeks, Dan F, Luke Dan F McCarthy, David. No, not reading all of that. Sorry, too many words. David, Ayer Skibbity Pop, Dan Ayer Dab, James H, Colton Dan F Miller, Fungus, John. I meant to change this weekly, but time zones are hard and I can never catch the show live. V8 Gang, Cam F Dan Morton, Hog Emoji, Archon Rahal, 3-inch deep striking secondary guard in a neighborhood near you, Yesiah Gattel, Frankie Fresh. Is it Isaac looking back at it, telling my family I beat up my friend's sisters, probably needed more context, Tarada, which is fantastic. I love that one, Isaac. Please win a singles GT. I need a new list to steal. Thank you. Thomas, my surname is not that difficult. So he's wrong. Verkuyen? Yep, that's what I'm going with. And I'm taking a secret mission. Can you point out all your battleline for me? Thank you, guys. It is truly brutal going through that every week. It is one of my favorite parts of the show. I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I don't. With that said, I hope everybody's had a great time. Thank you for bearing with us for a kids table episode that went into a solo show. I'm going to leave it there. I hope everybody has a great time at any tournaments that are this weekend. If you're at the Hellstorm Wargaming event in Sheffield, come and say hi. It would be great to see you. I have a massive new bag of StatCheck dice that I'm happy to distribute. So come and say hi, and I'm happy to give you a dice, swap for local club dice or anything like that, because I can add them to my ever-growing pile of like 500 swap dice from over the years. Would love to do it. Otherwise, good luck. Smash it if you're at an event. Enjoy your practice games if you're not. Am I baking? I'm not. I don't think I'm planning on bringing any baking down. It doesn't travel super well. It's just a pain in the backside traveling with like clothes and also baking. So I don't think I'll be bringing anything down with me to Sheffield. Catch you all later. I'm not doing the bye-bye. That's Nathan's thing.